Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce, and perhaps there he is.
I had to get in my chair. Yeah, we're ready to go. Sorry.
And Greg Terry from the Greg Terry Experience. It's great to have Greg on board for this rant. I was so desperate. I phoned Greg and said, "Mate, can you do a live? Like, where are you? I'm a mile from home. Like, get on it. Let's get it." Because my partner's in a bath. I'm like, I've got 40 minutes or so. So I'm like, yeah, because quite a lot's happening at the moment. Is it not, my friend?
It is a lot happening, and I just put a video out on it with a lot of information. So I'm very confident with whatever we want to talk about in regard to tomorrow, and that would be the negotiations, quote unquote. Additionally, the strike there, I call it a strike, the smoking in Russia, with the warehouse being blown up.
Should we start with that?
We start wherever you want to start. The one thing that's bugging me is because you got me on here so fast, my chair is like 6 inches offline, and it's really bugging me. So I need to move it. So I'm going to jump in the chair again. Hang on.
You do it, my friend. Yeah, so we've had, for those who are wondering where we're going to start, we're going to start talking about an ammunition depot that was, well, I was going to say struck. Actually, I'm not sure it was struck. This is one of those situations where I'm inclined to believe the Russian accounts.
Oh, that's so much better. I'm squared away and centered. Okay.
I was just saying, there's this huge set of explosions that apparently is still going on.
Yes.
So I am hearing this is about I don't know, something like 60 kilometers northeast of Moscow, and it's a huge ammunition depot that has gone up in smoke and balls of flame, actually, and there have been these secondary detonations. Now, what's interesting about this is previously the Ukrainians have hit these ammunition depots, and it's been like a strike that's taken place in the middle of the night, the usual kind of missiles and drone attacks and whatnot. But this appears to have happened in the middle of the day, and there's no evidence that there were any strikes. And the Russians straight away said it was an accidental ignition safety violation took place. Now, my theory, Greg, is that the Russians would be happy if this was a Ukrainian attack, because then they could get retribution and they could use that as an excuse to, like, say how terrible Ukraine are or whatever and just go crazy on Ukraine. But straight away they said it was a mistake. But also we know previously that when Ukraine do good things, often Russia would prefer it to be seen as a Russian mistake than Ukraine doing well. So you can, I think, defend both theses fairly well there. What's your opinion on this?
Well, first of all, it was not hit by a drone or a missile. That's a fact.
Right.
Point
yeah,
blank.
that's
I've watched all the videos, so there's no strike. However, let me present that one tab. So I'll show people where it happened, but I will give you a military response to it. So I do have that as well. It was on my update video a minute ago, but we can share it. So let me do this, and I know that looks like a lot of mess, but guys, this is the border of Ukraine right here in the red. And for reference, this is Kyiv and this is Sumy. This attack took place north of Moscow, this way up here, and right there. So maybe it'd be better if I do it that way. Right there. That's the border of Ukraine, and the detonation is here. It's in the Vladimir Oblast, which I've been in the Vladimir Oblast many times, and a massive warehouse complex that we can look at, and it's connected to the rail depot. And this is where the detonations were happening. So this is confirmed. This is a fact.
I'm just going to remove that and sorry, add this, because that's exactly what you're just showing. And that's a firms data, which is a NASA data. And that is showing obviously huge amounts of heat coming from looks like sort of 5/6 of the of the depot there, which is really good news, because I was saying as soon as this was breaking that wouldn't it be great if those detonations kept going off and you got subsequent, you know, storage
Well, we have
boxes or you know, facilities there blowing up.
Well, I know it's the exact spot. You're getting the heat signature, but I also had the GPS coordinates from Ukraine. So, I mean, it's for sure 100%. Now, a missile didn't hit it and drones didn't hit it. So Russia is coming out saying, yeah, we made a mistake in a transfer. But one of my soldiers that I like to follow, his name is Bratchuk, okay, which basically is slang for brother. So the word Russian or Ukrainians, brat. So Bratchuk, or many times I'll call people like bratushka, which is like a personal brother meaning. So I play this video, Johnny, and you'll hear him talking about this.
Glory to Ukraine. No casualties were reported at the warehouse in the Vladimir region, according to the Ministry of Shame in the Swamps, also known as the Russian Ministry of Defense. There were no casualties and no warehouse. Explosions are still ongoing there. Hopefully, it will be completely destroyed. And nearby that warehouse, I can confirm there is another one. Someone might carelessly toss a cigarette there too. That cigarette might shout, "Glory to the nation, death to enemies," before igniting. The time will come when we'll say, "No casualties, no warehouse, no Russia." May God hear our prayers. Christ is risen. Ukraine shall rise again. Glory to the nation, death to enemies. Never lose faith in our victory.
So a couple of things. Let me just interject and then you respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's going to use the great terminology, the swamps there, and it's cool. But there's a couple of things that give us clues. A, we know of another warehouse nearby there. Okay. And there is. And he talks about what has been like the joke, no other way to say it, like you're smoking in the wrong place. It's from day one of the war. But he also makes another statement there at the very end where he says, do not give up, you know, and I know it's not your world, but we celebrated Easter and Christ is risen and Ukraine will rise again. Don't give up. For me, as I listened to that earlier and then I translated it so everybody else could understand it, he was directly making a statement there for me about tomorrow. And the negotiations. And the negotiations.
Right.
Don't give up. No matter what you hear, no matter what rhetoric's going on, negotiations, give up, freeze, don't give up. Ukraine will be victorious. So it was a multifaceted message there from me. And I just want to say, now that I'm kind of locked into my chair and feeling good, welcome everybody on my channel as well. My mods jumped in here at the last minute. I was coming back from the store and I messaged Blonde Bombshell. I said, emergency live, going live with JP. And by the time I got here through the thumbnail up, they're rolling. Thank you all for jumping in here on just really a breaking news update here, where we're just going through some very important things because as I said, and if you haven't seen it, make sure you're checking JP's videos and his updates and my update that dropped about an hour and a half ago. Very important, because don't fall for the traps, guys. Tomorrow in the negotiations, April the 23rd, I will be up very early following all of this, because just wait for Zelenskyy to talk.
Yeah.
Don't listen to anybody else.
So before we get onto that, if we bottom out this explosion at the GRAU 51st GRAU, there were lots of missiles firing off, cooking off, and flying into local areas. There's stuff caught on CCTV of strikes hitting certain places, and now apparently a forest fire nearby, sadly. But there are claims that a considerable amount of ammunition has been destroyed. Also claims that some of what was seen cooking off from here were Fajr rockets, 107mm ones, system developed by using North Korean technology, which in turn is based on Soviet multiple launch rocket systems. I don't know if the Fajr is actually itself Iranian, but anyway, I'm sure people are going to make something of that. And just an awful lot of destruction, some huge fireballs. I mean, some serious.
Well, what we do know, okay, because I like to deal, as you do, I like to deal in facts. And we do know that this is one of the largest known, and I use that in parentheses, I even stressed that on my video, known ammo supply depots for Russia. There's plenty more, but this is one of the largest. We know that there they store MLRS systems, weapons. They store air defense.
Mm-hmm.
They store artillery. We know those three things to be facts. Whatever else is there, you know, we'll see. I popped that little video there. I'll give you that one. That's watching from a Russian's window. They were filming it.
I was just about to share that one myself, but yeah. So there are ambulances going.
Well, I don't think it went to the screen. Try it again.
There we go. Has it gone? Oh, right.
It was on Twitter.
That's the same. Yeah, same as my one. Okay, so this one.
There we go. So it's already going. Here comes secondary explosion. So what that means in Russian is it's a slang that means basically, oh, that's it. Like that, yes, sling it out. Oh, that's
the
it.
One.
That's the one. Yes.
Yeah. So the incredibly impressive explosions are consistently seen. I mean, here's another one from all sorts of different angles, and these are subsequent explosions after the initial kind of one. So really big explosions taking place throughout the day. And in fact, the color of the smoke's also interesting. Some of the kind of brown or orangey smoke denotes certain chemicals that are involved in, so you know what sort of munitions are being involved in the explosions there because of the color of the smoke. Lots of different colors of smoke as well. So lots to derive from that. And the last time this happened, when the Ukrainians struck at those two in quick succession, it did have an effect on the battlefield. Detonations continue there as of 10 o'clock local time, so at night. So I think this will have an effect on the battlefield. I think, any of that kind of news is good news for the Ukrainians, right?
It can't hurt.
No, exactly.
So, and additionally, you take all of the stories and you put them together and you find the truth there in the middle. So, especially when you're dealing with Russia, the bottom line is this: it definitely was a military supply depot.
Yeah,
massively supplied. We see that by the explosions, and we also know that it was not hit by a drone or a missile. So listen, I'm telling you right now stuff that people already know. Okay. There is Ukrainian special forces working all over Russia, just like there are Russian special forces working all throughout Ukraine. It's a war. So, who knows what happened, but the bottom line is it's blown up.
Yeah. I think the best case scenario is that it is an accident, because then Ukraine are off the hook, and it's just really bad luck for the Russians, and that's brilliant. I mean, the Ukrainians had to put no effort into that. It's not dangerous on their part. They don't lose people and they don't get retribution. Now,
let me tell you Russian mentality, though.
As I said earlier,
Russian mentality is this: if we can't prove through Anastasia's video out the window of her house that a drone hit it or a Neptune missile hit it, then it has to be our fault, because we are secure. This is about our security. So for sure, there's no partisan Ukrainians working inside Great Russia. So for them, their narrative will be, oops, we backed two trucks in each other, and set off the explosion.
It's when those
So
A-50s
they would never admit that Ukrainians are working inside Russia, which they are.
Yeah, and those A-50 AWACS planes that were shot down, if you remember, two within the side of a week or so back whenever, and for both of those, they're like, oh, it was an air defense mistake, and it was this. They'd much rather claim their own stupidity than Ukraine doing a better job, having won over them and being successful. So yeah.
Let me answer that one question there for Greg from Ricardo. Ricardo Zatino always asks a lot of very good questions, and we don't get to answer them all, but I want to answer this one. It'll be where we're going actually with the conversation here in a little bit, Ricardo, but the Financial Times report is absolutely fake news. So 100% fake news.
Okay. So that's where we're going next. Okay. So
why do I know it's fake news? Because Ukraine came out and stated that it was fake news, first of all, and then about 10 to 15 minutes after this dropped, Dmitry Peskov went straight to the microphone and said, that is fake news. And then all the Russian military I follow started coming in and saying, that is fake news. Then the Ukrainian military analyst came in and said, that is fake news. It's not even real. And what it is just the propaganda machine warming up. Honestly, that could have been pushed by the Donald Trump administration.
Yeah, so Anton Gerashenko reports of the Financial Times. So the headline for the Financial Times is Vladimir Putin offers to halt the Ukraine invasion along the current front line. And the media sources reported that this offer was allegedly made in the beginning of April during Putin's meeting with President Trump's special envoy Witkoff. According to the Financial Times, the Kremlin is ready to take its claims on the territories of the 4 Ukrainian regions off the table. So Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions of Ukraine. Instead, Putin wants Crimea to be recognized as Russian and for Ukraine to accept not joining NATO. A large number of statements and claims keep appearing in the information space. It's all part of the negotiation process. Anonymous sources are cited, signals are sent. While diplomacy is at work, the most important thing is to continue supporting Ukraine defense forces and wait for the real results of official messages. And as you say, Peskov then came out and said many fakes are published these days and respected media's publish them as well. So you should only listen to sources. But I think the point there is interesting that actually they allow these things to get out, whether it be Russia, the US, whoever, just to, I don't know, either muddy the waters or to try and get response from people out there. There are different, whether it's actually what's been officially stated or so, there are levels of games at play here, no doubt.
Okay, let's make it very easy. Everybody that's part of the Hope Train, and then we're partners, with ATP Geopolitics, and we work together nonstop. I've always said, and will continue to say, you wait for Zelenskyy. Okay, you wait. He already answered this today.
He's already said this. Yeah,
he's already answered this today. Okay, and I've got the video, or you've got the video there, but we'll go to that in a second. First of all, this is exactly the game that Russia plays, because we have to go back to the June 2024 speech that Sergei Lavrov has referred to at least half a dozen times over the last 2 months, that the war can end immediately. But for that requirement, it is for Ukraine to fully withdraw from the 4 regions, fully to the actual oblast borders, for Russia to put up their borders there, for Crimea to be recognized as Russian, for the Ukrainian military to be minimized, and no NATO. So Vladimir Putin has stated that in June of 2024, and that is what all the Russians refer back to, whether it's Peskov or Dmitriev now has referred to it, Lavrov has referred to it multiple times. So what you would then have is Russia, who stole these 4 regions, stole them through what Lavrov said 2 weeks ago was internationally recognized referendums by external, witnesses, which is all a bunch of lies. They would now have to go against their constitution, which is what they're always stating. It's in our constitution. It's our people. It's our regional borders. It's the Donbass region and the Novorossiya. So then Russia has to back up. Well, that will then show them as weak. So you have to go with it in layers. So I really believe, okay, This is a lie. This is not my videos I upload that are facts only. I honestly believe the Trump administration put that out there. I could be dead wrong because this is the same day where in multiple sources that I follow inside of Russia, not the Kremlin, guys, you have to read their stuff. And you say, well, you can't believe anything they say. Well, so you can believe anything coming out of the American press? Okay, so it's the same story. All right. Multiple places today in Russian media is the talks are back on the table for the Trump Tower Moscow project. Multiple places. On the same day where we're prepping for these talks now in London, this story has resurfaced that there could be real estate deals for Trump to come back, build the 150-story tower downtown Moscow, have Trump Tower Moscow. Now that goes back to what Trump has said. You know, if this doesn't work out, then we're just going to go ahead and go on our different ways, and we'll do business with Russia. So you have this narrative. You have to zoom out. You have to look at the big picture here, and it's really interesting. And then ultimately, you come back to what Zelenskyy said. And this is what Zelenskyy said. He said, tomorrow, my team is going to London. And tomorrow, they only have a mandate to discuss one thing, and that is a ceasefire. They do not have a mandate to talk about the territories of Ukraine. So if the territories of Ukraine come up, whether it be the 4 regions or Crimea, they will say nothing. They have no mandate. Additionally, we now have UK there with Starmer. We'll have France there. And let's throw the cherry on the top. State Department coming out 3 hours ago and stating that Kellogg will be the rep there. Marco Rubio is not even going.
So this is what I wanted to come on to say.
Decisions made.
This tells you a lot, right? The fact that neither Marco Rubio nor Steve Witkoff are going to be there, right?
That's because Witkoff is resting. He's heading to Moscow at the end of the week. Him and Trump are playing golf right now.
But
that's a joke. They might be. I don't know. I'm just joking.
But absolutely. But like the reality is that if the US was serious about tomorrow being a negotiated ceasefire that's likely to happen, they're not sending Keith Kellogg. Like, Keith Kellogg has been sidelined, right? And so he's too pro Ukraine for Trump, Rubio, and Witkoff, right? So that's who you send if you're thinking it's not going to happen, right? If it's going to happen, you're going to have Rubio championing or Witkoff championing their efforts, right? So the fact that Kellogg's going tomorrow, I think, tells you all you need to know.
Jonathan M.S. Pearce, here you go. We are witnessing the largest scale frontline and war since World War II, based on destruction, loss of life, etc. We are sending 80-year-old Keith Kellogg, and nothing about the age, okay, zero about the age. I'm just saying, who Russia kicked out of the Kremlin and said he's too pro-Ukrainian.
Yep.
Give us Witkoff. He's going, and the largest war, the longest, the biggest, and I'm talking, big war, since, because it's been 12 years now, it's just 3 years since the full-scale invasion. Since World War II, we're going to have this landmark day. We're sending Keith Kellogg, who Russia doesn't even want to talk to. What else do you need to know? This is why there's one thing that both Donald Trump and Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, they both know this. Zelensky's hard on the red line, and the red line is territory. We can have a full ceasefire. We are ready right now. We will drop our arms right now. All of them, Ukraine says. But you have to do the same, and then we can talk about territory. Russia says we talk about territory, and then we can talk about a ceasefire. It's a completely different argument. And I personally feel that Zelenskyy and the Ukrainian negotiators and team have outplayed both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in this game of negotiation. Gertis called me, or I called him, he was getting out of class. He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Dude, a whole lot's going on." I said, "We're having some serious chess moves right now." I said, "But whatever you do today, if you make videos, I just want to remind you, Zelenskyy once again reaffirmed the red line." So
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to talk about, honestly.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So Zelenskyy in a speech said during a press conference ahead of the peace talks tomorrow, as soon as we start talking about Crimea, about our sovereign territories, etc., we enter the format that Russia wants, prolonging the war. Ukraine will not legally recognize the Russian annexation of Crimea. There's nothing to talk about. This is beyond our constitution. This is our territory, the territory of the people of Ukraine. That will not happen. If Ukraine accepts not being in NATO, what will Russia accept? Ukraine is ready for an unconditional ceasefire. It is a partial one. Then we are ready for mirrored measures. If they don't strike our energy infrastructure, we do the same, respectively. If they don't use long-range weapons, Ukraine won't use them. Legal consultations regarding the minerals deal continue. So basically, he has reaffirmed, as you say, those red lines. But also, like, it's unrealistic to expect those big concessions to be made formally in an agreement when that has to surely go through the Verkhovna Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, in order to ratify giving away such large areas of Ukrainian land. But yeah.
Let me say this, because it's gone by so fast now, but I happened to look down. J-Hop from Meadville, Pennsylvania, supporting Ukraine. Dude, you're like really close to me. And tonight I'm having a birthday dinner for my son-in-law in Meadville, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
Super cool. Super cool. Okay. So JP, here it is. Zelenskyy today, not only on the red line, he made that statement, but additionally, he made another very moving statement. And it's in my video earlier. He said this. He said, it's interesting that we have confirmed proof that North Korea is fighting us with soldiers, with massive amounts of supply. And we have absolute proof that not only these Chinese soldiers that were captured, but China is assisting Russia with artillery preparation, with gunpowder. We have the absolute proof. And right now, the United States is having to deal with Iran, and Iran has made a new agreement with Russia. It's really an interesting time. You would think that we would not want to lose this great partnership, this strategic partnership. And we don't want to lose it. And I'm sure the United States wouldn't want to lose it. And he was specifically talking about U.S., it's probably a good time with all that's going on for you to partner with the most experienced army in the world right now, the Ukrainian army, versus leaving us alone because you might just need us. It was what he was saying, and it was so powerful. So I don't think I think tomorrow's just a sham, personally. Could be wrong. Could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things to say about that. Here's St. Javelin saying, looks like the US might walk away from the negotiations any day now. The worst part is that Washington seems to be on board with most of Moscow's demands. Russia wants Ukraine stripped of its army, reduced to something like Moldova's military. They also want to keep all the occupied territories and redirect the frozen assets not to Ukraine, but to rebuild Russia in the regions that they've destroyed. No illusions left. This isn't a path to peace. So I think, yeah, pretty much agree with all of that. But then it's interesting that Kaya Kallas, who I think is so on point these days, absolutely I think she's awesome on Ukraine. Kaya Kallas, the US has not used all the tools at its disposal to put pressure on Russia, she said to France 24, which is absolutely true. In an interview with Agence France Presse, she said Kyiv and our European allies were hoping that Washington would take a harder line with Moscow. Quote, they have the tools in their hands to really put pressure on Russia. Why don't they use them to end this war? She added that Russia is playing games, trying to buy time, and doesn't really want peace. She also said that the EU will never recognize Crimea as Russian, and it would be a mistake for the US to do so. Crimea is Ukraine, she said. So that's really strong rhetoric from the EU, which is exactly what we want to hear, and directly against what we're hearing from the Trump administration. Who
Keith Kellogg coming out, just to reiterate what you're saying there, Ukraine will not become a part of NATO, and the issue of Kyiv's accession to the alliance is not under discussion tomorrow.
No, but it's frustrating that he says that, because that's going directly against Secretary of Defense. Sorry, Secretary General Mark Rutte of NATO, who said that Ukraine are on an irreversible path into
Correct.
NATO.
Exactly. And I see people in the chat saying tomorrow may be the beginning of the United States exit from NATO. Just, chatting.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because Marco Rubio, of all people, was a guy that predicted that Trump might do this, and so therefore passed a bill through Congress, or put a bill into Congress, that meant that you need something like a supermajority, or at least a large amount of senators, in order to allow the US to formally extricate itself from NATO. And Trump can't do it unilaterally. So what they are doing is defunding NATO training exercises, pulling out of NATO in Europe, pulling American forces out of Europe on their NATO duties. And so rather than formally taking themselves out of NATO, the US can functionally pull themselves out of NATO. Anyway.
Well, let's do this. So I get this video in every day, and I never play this video. They're usually about 3 minutes long. And today I wanted to show it so that you have a reference. So tomorrow is supposed to be all these negotiations, and, we're going to have the peace plan and all of this. Russia puts out their video every day. A military analyst I follow out of Russia, showing the strikes that they do every 24 hours. So the video I've put in the queue for you, before you play it, just remember, this is what Ukraine is fighting against. This is just what you're going to see, folks, is the strikes over the last 24 hours in Ukraine. And they're just supposed to give away territory and negotiate peace and trust Russia. Play that one, JP. Airplane glide bombs. Then you'll start to see there's the glide bomb strikes coming around the whole front line. Odessa struck with drones, glide bombs, and you can see the red dots. Those are glide bombs. This is just, there's the drone strike on Odessa last night. There's two more. You can look at this, guys. Now we have the flights coming into Kyiv, into Poltava, towards Dnipro. This is just the last 24 hours. I watch that video every day. It gives me the time of the strike, what it was struck with, how it was struck. And of course, Ukraine knows this, but this is what you're dealing with. And it's, as I see it, a lot of civilians on that side of the line.
Yeah, it's incredible that these strikes are just so normalized for the US. Not even normalized, they're ignored by the Trump administration. And there's all sorts of I think mental gerrymandering that takes place, or really just ignoring the moral reprehensible actions of the Russians.
12 Shaheed, Odessa right now, 9 on Poltava.
There was a rumor that they were massing those drones, as they have been doing for Odessa.
And
out
Ukraine really struggles to stop them now because they changed the tactics of how they're striking.
Yeah. So to let people know what they do in Odessa is they send, as far as I understand it, where they used to send like drones like continuously at Odessa, and then the air defenses could take them down one by one. Now what they do is they send them continually, but they don't attack Odessa. They start basically flying in circles around the Black Sea, and then amassing all the drones all at once. And then when they're all amassed in the Black Sea, then they all attack at once into Odessa, and they can't. That overwhelms the Ukrainian air defenses, and they get through.
It's a swarm. That's exactly right. They go out over the Black Sea, and they swarm up. But then what they're doing right now, they're coming at 2 different altitudes. So I'll try to do this where people can see. So they'll have a lower layer that's typically like, you witnessed and you see on the videos, 60 to 100, 200 meters in the air, and just kind of slow chugging along. And that's taking all of the like truck mounted air defense that are shooting at Shaheeds, and the guys are lighting them up and they're shooting them down with air defense. But then the swarm comes in at 2 kilometers, way up here high, very high. And then when it gets to where it is intended to strike, they actually turn and just kamikaze straight down into targets. It's why Kharkiv was hit today with 13. You can see them just diving right down. So the tactics are changed everywhere, and they're just unstoppable. I mean, unstoppable, and they have a lot of them. And for people, this is, I stand on this one. I'm on the other side, Russia's not running out of supplies. Russia has
No,
plenty
they seem
of supplies.
yes, but also interesting that on the Shahid front, they are firing sometimes down to a quarter of what they were firing. So they were firing up to just over 200 Shahids a night about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Then something must have happened. And I was saying that I think Ukraine, because there's so many strikes that take place every night that we're not hearing about from Ukraine, as well as we hear, Russia also strike an awful lot of stuff in Ukraine that we don't hear about. So both sides do this, but Ukraine has been striking fairly consistently. And there's been a lot of OPSEC or just people not recording it. It happens in the middle of nowhere, etc., etc. So we are unaware of an awful lot that Ukraine are achieving. I know there's someone, Paul Sweeney, in my thread at the moment, in the live chat at the moment, who provides me with firms data on usually daily, showing some of the heat signatures across Russia and indeed Ukraine. So there's stuff going on, right? We just don't hear about it. And then suddenly, the Russians went from firing 200 drones in a day to zero. There had 2 days where there was zero. Then it was like 25, then 50. Then it was up to 96 the other day. Then down to 50 again today. And that is a quarter of what they were sending previously. So I think that a manufacturing depot facility has probably been hit. But the Russians have massively upscaled their manufacturing those Shahid drones, which is a huge problem for Ukraine.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. The only thing I would have people think about is they may be firing less, but their effectiveness is much more.
Yeah, true.
That's the problem. And because of this new tactic, Ukraine yesterday was actually the largest drone strike. I don't want to use the word successful, but devastating on Odessa. Drone strike, not ballistic missiles, was last night. As far as how much stuff was actually hit. And then today in Kharkiv was hit during the daytime. We've had people killed. We've had people wounded. And I mean, it's just, it may be less happening, but you're not having 111 in the air and 91 shot down and 23 flew off course. You're having some serious devastation happen right now.
The interception rates have gone down.
Yeah, so definitely. It's good that there's less, but it's bad that it's a lot.
The interception rates are poor.
Although
but last night the Ukrainians claimed 100% was shot down. So the implication was that all the ones that hit Odessa were debris. And whether that's true or not, I mean, these things have much bigger payloads. That's the other thing to think about, Greg, as well, is that they've got bigger payloads than they did a year, 2 years ago, and more of them are getting through. But even if they are getting shot down, so if you believe the Ukrainians last night with 100% being shot down, these things are often being shot down over the city, right? So you're still going to have huge explosions hitting usually residential infrastructure around, say, Odessa. So brilliant, 100% interception rate, but massive destruction because you shot them down over your own buildings.
All right, play that. This is Odessa right this second. That's Odessa right now. Looking out of my house, he said. You can hear.
Yeah. Those mopeds.
Yeah. So that's right this second. I just got that video. Right this second. Odessa's burning. Listen. You can hear it.
And then the anti-aircraft sort of machine guns, of course,
that as well. Exactly.
Yeah, you take the wing out of that, and it'll come crashing down and explode.
Still going to hit
something. It's still going to hit something. So sometimes 100% interception rates don't. Okay, well done, but also, what goes up must come down, as I always say. So I think personally for me, like the number one targets for the Ukrainians at the moment should be the manufacturing facilities of Shahid drones. I'll be spending all of my energies trying to take out those. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Ukrainians had taken out a manufacturing facility, and that's what they're focusing on probably most nights. I mean, that's what I would be doing.
Information I'm getting in right now from a couple of Ukrainian analysts that have a coinciding story is that they are feeling now, with the information they're getting, that they may actually, it may be the train that has exploded. that was coming to the depot. And that's why we're
Right.
seeing all the lined explosions the way they are. So they're starting to build that case right now that actually it's a train that has exploded.
Which then it makes it easier for sabotage. I would have
Exactly.
thought,
It takes you
like, it'd
exactly.
be easier to sabotage a train than to get into a very secure facility. I would have
Correct.
thought. But that's just pure
But I
speculation.
mean, yeah, I'm just giving you, we're live, so I'm giving you information. I always filter through this, make
Yeah.
sure I've got it multiple source, but it's multiple places right now saying it. It very possible this to train.
Yeah. So something else that I've been speculating on recently, and again, this is just my theorizing, fairly unevidenced, other than the statistics show that the interception rates have gone down for Ukraine. And you would assume one of the main targets for the Russian Shahed and ballistic missiles and cruise missiles is going to be air defenses. It always was at the beginning. They were trying their damnedest to shoot at or to successfully take out Patriot launchers. And remember that time they claimed they'd taken out an entire battery, which was, entirely unrealistic. But I imagine that the Russians, since they've been firing every night up to 200 drones at Ukraine, that over the course of the last year or two, they will have attrited some of the very best Ukrainian air defense pieces. So I would suggest that possibly some of the lack of 100% interceptions that we've seen, like the better success rate for the Russians might well be that they've also taken out some air defense, NASAMS, Patriots.
For sure.
It must have. I mean, the Russians are going to be that's going to be target number one for them, because as soon as you take them out, then it becomes a snowball effect and you get more and more successful. So that's possibly also why Zelensky's redoubled his rhetoric on air defenses in the last 3 weeks, actually. So that gone all a bit quiet. Then the interception rates changed, and then he's suddenly talking about air defense capabilities again. So I'd imagine there's probably been some attrition there.
Well, there's a lot of internal talk about that, even between military units, where they don't have the amount of air defense systems that they did have. And that just coincides with what you're stating there, but it's talked about, and especially around Odessa, especially.
Yeah.
And we see the reality is, man. So we were there when the ballistic struck, and I mean, it hit right in front of us. And in the hotel I've stayed in before, you couldn't hear it. No air alarm went off. The ballistic from Crimea to Odessa is there. I'll get that question in a second, but leave it up there. So Odessa's tough, but it just confirms, like, if Ukraine had ample supply of air defense, there would be more around Odessa.
So Odessa was being hit massively. If you remember, I'm going to make up a number here, but let's say, for example, 8 months ago, Odessa was getting absolutely hammered. And then there was all these calls for more air defense. It might have been around the time even when the Greek prime minister was there. But anyway, then it got better. So I presume they probably did get some air defenses, and then it's got worse again. So I presume, again, massive speculation, that some of those air defenses have been taken out. And that's war, right? Ukraine are not going to be able to magically stop their air defenses from being attrited over the course of a war with Russia, right? So it will happen. Patriots will be lost. They need continual supply of not only the interceptor missiles for the Patriots, but loads of Patriot systems and NASAMS and SAMTs and everything else they can get their hands on. So a question for Greg: was that the port in Odessa that was
no
hit?
that was it was residential buildings that was hit, and it's burning. It's homes, civilian targets. Additionally, I can tell you that yesterday a large ship was coming into the port of Odessa and being unloaded today, but we've not had any information that was hit. That video we just showed was homes.
But I'm not even sure that the Black Sea deal was actually officially ratified anyway. The energy deal was kind of adhered to for a month, but then there was an argument over when it ended, like both sides having a different interpretation of when that was ending. But at the same time, people are like, I'm not really sure the Black Sea deal actually they talked about it, but I don't know that they agreed on it. But anyway,
let me ask you a question now, JP. And tomorrow we're having this talks again, and the UK will be there, France will be there, and Germany will be there, as I'm reading. But for sure UK, and for sure France, supposedly defending the position of Ukraine. We also, I'm sure you saw it, Starmer with his video encouraging the Ukrainian troops that were being trained. Did you see that video? And he was just yesterday came out and saying, we're with you. We've trained you. We'll continue to train you. We'll stand with you. We'll fight with you. We're increasing our production to help. Is it going to make a difference this time where I think Ukraine is expecting the UK and France to be much more vocal?
I think this was always what Ukraine wanted, which was, the ridiculousness of Jeddah and Saudi Arabia, where the US were meeting with Russia to do a deal about Ukraine without Ukraine, about Europe without Europe. And then everyone's like, and then you have Marco Rubio accepting that this was ridiculous because actually most of the sanctions on, or many of the sanctions on Russia are EU sanctions, and so therefore, and indeed British sanctions. So you can't do a deal with Russia without Britain and without the EU. So there was this they must have gone through, tried to have this deal, and then Russia were like, right, you need to get the EU to reduce all the sanctions, and then Marco Rubio was like, well, yeah, we can't do that because they're EU. And then there was this, I guess, reluctant acceptance that, oh yeah, Europe are going to have to be in the deal. Oh, I suppose we should include Ukraine as well. And then eventually, we come to a situation where, Europe and Ukraine are at the talks, and lo and behold, they're probably not going to be a complete rollover and allow Russia to get what they want. So I think this is good news. This is how it should be. But I also think it gives permission for the US to just step out and take a step back and maybe wash their hands of the whole thing. But then the worry is, what do they do about the sanctions that are on Russia, which I think are really meaningful and important, those Treasury Department sanctions? I don't think they're enforcing them particularly well at the moment, but
Excuse me. Are you even have the audacity to bring up Treasury Department sanctions? Really? From the Crystal Palace of the UK, you want to talk about US Treasury Department sanctions, where our own Bessent lifted the sanctions off of the oligarch and soon to be probably successor to Lavrov, if not Putin himself, Kirill Dmitriev, to allow him to come to the United States, to walk into our White House and sit down with Witkoff and Lindsey Graham.
It is ridiculous, yeah. I mean,
and you think there's a sanction on a boat sailing around somewhere in the Indian Ocean? Come on, man. Y'all smoking stuff.
The US
We let the
Treasury
stinking dude come into the White House.
Yeah, and it's got such an important role to play, because those sanctions were really doing a job. I know people criticize them, but actually the Treasury Department for the US under Biden was really doing a good job of tightening the noose. They brought out a massive set of sanctions on the ghost ship fleet, and then they were starting to put secondary sanctions on India and China, and they were having an effect. And then January the 20th came, and it all just, the foot was off the neck of Russia. So it's a really difficult situation for Ukraine, like we said for many weeks, is that, if Europe go all in on helping to support Ukraine and stand up for them in these negotiations, it all depends what the US does. Because if the US walks away but keep stuff in place, then that's just about doable. But if they walk away and just reduce all their sanctions to zero and then actually actively help Russia, then that just gives Russia a complete resurrection lifeline. And that's my Easter reference for you.
Russians writing right now, ceasefire. The concept of negotiations in London is changing before our eyes. Are you watching? The U.S. delegation will not include the United States Secretary of State Rubio or Trump's special representative representing himself, Witkoff. There will only be the pro-Ukrainian special representative, Kellogg. This was just confirmed. That means there will be no negotiations on substance. This will just be the response of France, Britain, and Ukraine to the United States proposals that they made to them in Paris. No details, just yes or no, and back to it.
Yeah. So they're obviously
that's accurate.
Yeah. So I don't think there's an awful lot that's going to be achieved tomorrow. But I think because they've got Kellogg there and not Rubio and Witkoff, I think they are just going to use it as an excuse to extricate themselves from the negotiations.
Well, let me say it this way, and it's bad because of the United States has done a lot over 3 years. That's a fact. A lot of stuff has went there.
Yeah.
It's been a tough and bumpy road. There's been delays.
Agreed.
There's been ups and downs. There's been frustration, but a lot of stuff has went there. I would draw your attention to the fact that the ambassador to Ukraine was changed out. Of course,
Bridget Blink
gone. Whether it was her 3 years up or not, but she was definitely in a different camp than the Trump administration in regard to Ukraine. A lot of pressure on her. Narratives were called out. Next thing you know, she's gone. Now we see only Kellogg going to London. Listen, this is so easy to see. I mean, let's just take out a coloring book and start coloring in the picture here. It's the United States is backing down. They're as of right now, when you look at it, tomorrow the whole world could change. But as you look at it right now, especially JP, with what we've heard come out of Rubio's mouth, the Secretary of State, just a few days ago, in Paris, and then Trump himself, we've just got a few days and we're going to make a decision. We're in or out. I think that's what we're going to see potentially. And for me now, and I'm an American and I work in Ukraine, and I'll be heading back there very shortly. Get out. Get out. Because you're hurting us through this jerking us around. And I say us as a card-carrying Ukrainian document holder. So I can say us. Just get out. Because you're really not helping now. I mean, I know it's the weaponry and I know it's the intelligence. That's the big one. Although, did you see the news coming out where Japan is going to start supplying Ukraine with intelligence?
Well, funny you should say that.
I was going to put a video out on that tomorrow.
Here's what I prepared earlier. So not that, this. Indeed, Japan to provide Ukraine with geospatial intelligence.
Ed and my airy head are right on the same page.
We are there. We are there together. So hopefully there are gaps that can be filled. I know that there are capability gaps that the US pulling out will remain because no one else can do certain things that the Americans do. But if we all come together and help as much as possible, then there are hopefully going to be things that countries like Japan can offer. I know the UK and France have got some fairly decent satellite capabilities, but and then you've got those Swedish AWACS planes that have been talked about that have a good 400-kilometer range. A couple of those online would be brilliant to operate themselves from within Ukraine. That's the important part, because those kind of planes that are being utilized by NATO forces operate in those Saab ones, that the Swedish are going to give. At the moment, we provide assistance from outside of Ukraine. I don't know what goes on inside the borders of Ukraine. There probably are planes flying around, but I certainly know that we have like British ones flying from, actually they fly all the way from UK. Then when they get over to near Ukraine, you have Eurofighter Typhoons then accompanying them over the Black Sea. They go almost to Crimea. It's incredible. I watched, there's a really good Channel 4 documentary series called RAF the Top Guns or something like this, and the second series has just been on Channel 4 in the UK, and it shows the work that they're doing in the Black Sea. And so these big AWACS planes come all the way from the UK to do their mission and then fly all the way back to the UK, but they get joined by these Eurofighter Typhoons with much smaller range that take off from Romania, and they go right up to Crimea, like right up to Crimea. And then the Russian jets then come along and say, if you don't leave now, we're going to shoot you. And then they try and scare them off. And it's amazing how close they do get, but that will be a really good capability if they can get those Saab planes inside Ukraine.
Right now, I mean, we are live. I can tell you Poltava, big explosions happening 9 minutes ago, and power is out. This is coming in from Kovalenko, a guy I follow very closely. That's Odessa right now. So this is all residential. And Peskov coming out even just recently talking about it's hard to figure out what is a civilian target because Ukraine hides in civilian targets. So this is their narrative,
Classic.
you know. And I can tell you that just a little while ago, Kherson electrical substation right in the center was just hit as well. So you've had Poltava hit. We can talk power out. We Kherson, and now the civilian targets on Odessa. All of this is happening right now.
Yeah, it's bad news. Can I just go completely left field to talk about the White House? And
I am not surprised at any time you would go left.
So to talk about the White House and the press pool in the White House. So
the cesspool in the White House.
Yeah, pretty much the cesspool, the press pool, where a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago, Caroline Leavitt, the White House spokesperson, had said we are going to invite Tim Pool, who had been previously paid by Tenet Media, who had been paid by Russians, and Tim Pool had been getting, what was it, $400,000 dollars for an episode a month or something, ridiculous
Nick
amount of
from
money.
End Time Independent News informed me and updated me on that. So yeah, I'm prepared to.
So yeah, he has now been officially like brought into the White House. So this is a pro-Russian, not just pro-Russian, but an actual Russian asset, effectively. Russia secretly worms its way into America's conservative media. So this was what was originally reported. Federal prosecutors say Russia paid an American media company, that's Tenet Media, to push pro-Kremlin messages from social media influencers, including Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin. Well, now we see him in the White House today. So he has been officially White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt in our new media seat today. Tim Pool, he's a political commentator and a media entrepreneur with millions of followers, a very big platform. So she's platforming Tim Pool, who is himself compromised by Russia. That has just, the Trump administration has invited Russia into the White House, as far as I am concerned, into the press pool. And I think that's absolutely disgusting. But there you go. Yes, Greg.
Why are you disgusted by that?
Because I still believe there must be some desire for decency, but evidently
no, JP,
not.
You're missing the big picture here, brother. Okay, we have a president that sanctions penguins. Okay, do you understand
True.
me?
Yeah.
And you're sitting here complaining about Tim Pool.
Yeah.
Who gives a flying flip about Tim Pool? The stinking president of the United States is compromised.
Yeah.
You want to talk about just some cat in the White House press pool who's been paid by Russia? The stinking president of the United States calls Putin his good friend, Xi Jinping his good friend, and Rocket Boy his good friend, and he can't wait to get back to North Korea. What are you talking about? It's the president. That's the problem.
Yeah. I don't disagree, my good man. I've got a
Good
personal question. I've
grief.
got a
Yeah, it's terrible. Okay, that Tim Pool is there. What a tragedy. And he's a bot and he's paid by Russia, but it shouldn't surprise you. The next thing you're going to have is Peskov himself sitting there.
God, don't, mate. Yeah.
You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, the scumbag from Georgia, kicking people out, kicking UK reporters out of her own press conferences because of what they're going to write. You're not an American. Get out of here. I'm only talking to an American. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're surprised that Tim Pool's in the White House press pool?
Did you see what Marjorie Taylor Greene? I know you're probably no
Marjorie
big fan,
Taylor Greene. I would love to debate her and just light her rear end up on a conservative discussion and wrap her into a ball of wire and have her destroy her own argument in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, because now you got the right man going. And I mean right as far as right and left. I'm so disgusted that the faces of my country is Donald Trump touting his power of tariffs, bully mentality, and he just thinks because he says something, it happens. We have a Secretary of State whose real name is Casper the Ghost because he's disappeared, and the face of our politics are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is disgusting and vile.
Yeah, I mean, I know you might not be the biggest fan of the Pope, but do you see what she wrote about the Pope?
I did see what she wrote about the Pope. Did you see what Donald Trump wrote about the Pope?
What about? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to the funeral.
Who looks forward to going to a funeral?
It's just insane.
Why did you call me today? You got me on a bad day. I'm frustrated, man.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene said, today there were major shifts in global leaderships. Evil is being defeated by the hand of God. And actually, I was thinking she can't actually be referring to the Pope, but apparently
she's referring to the Pope.
Genuinely referring to the death of the Pope. That evil has been defeated. So just listen, I know that Protestants and Catholics aren't always going to get on, but that is,
it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about the MAGA narrative. Drink the Kool-Aid, go to Jonestown, Guyana, and let's kumbaya while we praise Donald Trump for praising Jesus while he's standing beside the Easter Bunny. And I'm a Christian, so I guess I have the right to talk about it. What a farce, what a joke. He puts out videos that people like Paula White are praying for him. Let's just go complete bonkers and lunatic. None of that is real Christianity. Christianity is serving people, helping the down and out, helping the hurting. Instead of that, we're sweeping them under the rug. And what are we going to do? Just join us and we're all going to get rich, rich, rich. That is pure evil. Next, you got me boiling before my son-in-law's birthday party.
Right. I'm going to ask.
It's unbelievable. So back to the narrative, that MAGA land narrative, they actually, in that far right Christian nationalistic view, which I have a lot of experience in, and I feel I can speak to it on expert level. They actually believe that the Pope is an evil force controlling the world, working with the IMF and the World Bank, and it's basically the devil coming out of hell himself. This is the narratives, guys. It's unbelievably horrible. Sorry.
This is great because normally I'm the one ranting, and today it's you, and I love it. And because everything you say is 100% correct. And by the way, 100 and a million is not a number. Yes, completely agree. I have a personal question for you, Greg. And because here's my parallel, right? I'm obsessed with the Ukraine and the Ukraine war. You're obsessed with Ukraine and Ukraine war and doing what is right and supporting morality, etc., right? And your level of obsession means that you've been to Ukraine for the last 26, 27 years, right? And it's a whole different level to mine.
28.
Oh, okay. 28 years. Time has flown. My man, time has flown. But when I go down to the pub and meet my mates, like all I want to talk about is Ukraine and Ukraine war. And I bet most of the people on this thread watching this video now, if you're like an hour and 3 minutes into watching two guys bang on about Ukraine and Russia, you're going to be fairly obsessed about this as well. And so, I want to talk about this with everyone. But you're a pastor, right? And I presume you still do what pastors do, stand up in front of a congregation and say your stuff. Do you?
I travel. I don't pastor a church anymore. I'm full time
Right, okay.
in this, and I travel and I do speak in churches. In fact, I was just speaking in a church a couple of weeks ago. I was invited because the church wanted the truth about Ukraine.
Right. Good.
And it was incredible.
So because so this question maybe isn't relevant because you don't have your own church and whatnot, but I was wondering if you did have, like, if you were going back to the US and then you got to speak to your congregation, then you go away. Like, I would imagine it would be really difficult for you to talk about like normal church service stuff, like the normal doctrine, theology, and biblical stories or chapter and verse.
Is that because last night when the car went by my house and backfired, I jumped up because I thought it was artillery?
Yeah, kind of. Like, your head is in like the Ukraine war, just like mine is, just like I'm sure many of the people watching
24/7.
So I would imagine if you did have your own church, it would be like, and today's reading is going to be about Ukraine again, and I'm reading from
no, I would only preach the Good Samaritan, help the people. No, but to be honest, Johnny, we happen to be on this planet at the same time. We have different beliefs in creation and all of these things and things that it's okay to disagree about and talk about. Okay. No problem. But look what we do agree on. We agree that the war in Ukraine and what is happening geopolitically on our planet right now is easily in the top 5 historically of times in history where we could live, like on the timeline, like the Roman Empire. Okay, maybe Industrial Revolution. Okay,
it's
of course, World
global.
War I, World War II. But I'm talking, we have global implications right now, and I personally believe that the war in Ukraine was an epicenter for this, because it has the war in Ukraine is what has woken these nations up to come. We always talk about, well, it's Israel. It's really not Israel that everybody's focused on right now. Okay. Yeah. US and Houthis and Iran, and we may bomb them, and Israel may bomb them, and Gaza. All those are important stories, and I cover those as well.
And also connected to Ukraine.
They're absolutely connected. But it's only Ukraine that's bringing Russia, China, North Korea, India, all of Europe, the United States, and I can keep listing. They're all connected to the Ukraine narrative. We're at a very pivotal point in the history of our world, and I firmly believe that. So if I firmly believe that, and it's become a part of my life mission, and my life mission has transitioned, then I'm giving it everything. It's going to be 24/7. Everything I have. I've spent 14 months on that front line delivering aid. I will be heading back very shortly, and we will do everything we can. The YouTube channel's been growing like crazy. We're getting ready to start another project, and I threw the commercial out first, but it's going to be super cool. With Project Konstantin as well. It's going to be awesome to help finish Pete's mission, etc. But the reality is, I can't do anything else, man. I've lost so many friends, and we've been there. We know the truth. We know the truth, JP.
You're devoting your life to this. I mean, I'm devoting my life to this. I every waking hour, like even when I'm doing, like, my downtime is still, I'm on the socials collecting information. Like, I'm attached to my phone. And like I am devoted, but you are devoted in a way that puts me to shame. You naturally, because of your long relationship with the region, and yeah, and I think it's absolutely good, right, and proper that we are obsessed with this, because it's the most important thing in the world, and it remains the most important thing in the world at the moment, geopolitically speaking.
I can only agree with you. I mean, listen, you can look at every story that's happening in the world right now, and you can connect it to Ukraine. First of all, anything that negatively happens, Ukraine will be blamed. I want you to think about that for a moment. How many times has Ukraine been blamed for things they haven't done over 3 years? Oh, well, okay. Listen. The shooting that just took place in Florida, okay? The right-wing nut jobs have already found the link historically to Ukrainians. There was another guy that wants to try to blow Trump up with an RPG, and he went to Ukraine and bought the RPG. And the stories just go on and on and on. No matter if they're true, not true, on planet Mars, it's always going to be right now, especially after the Trump administration the Trump regime has taken power. Did I just say that? I just said regime. I try to be a positive, forward-thinking American and say Trump administration, but it's really like a regime.
Can I show you a meme that supports what you're saying? Excuse the swear word here, Greg. So it does have a swear word.
No problem.
But this is it. The dinosaurs, the meteorite that comes down, the asteroid that comes down and destroys and kills the dinosaurs. For Ukrainians, bloody, it's their fault, in it. And that's kind of what you're talking to. Which
I am. And
the idea that they're always to blame.
Man, you go anywhere, okay? We can talk about Canada. We can connect that to Ukraine. We can talk about Greenland, going to connect it to Ukraine. Why? Well, Russia's fighting Ukraine. Well, they've got a strategic place up there, and then China's putting a base up there, so we've got to go take that. It's all connected to Ukraine. And somewhere they always keep a Ukrainian narrative. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, man. I hate them, but I know there's a lot of goofy things that have been happening. I've mentioned them myself, just with things I can personally attest to. But I think this has been prepared by Russia for 70 years, from the 50s, if not the 40s, when Ronald Reagan was warning the world that communism was invading Hollywood. And we see it. And it's really interesting now that I watch even TV programs from the 2000s and the early 2010s, and they're talking about the separatists and Crimea. I mean, before Crimea was even a story, they were talking about Crimea and the assets, and Russia's going to, I mean, it's everywhere. So I just, you can't ignore it, man. It's reality.
Let's sort of start wrapping this up then, Greg, with a skip through the meadows hand in hand of the super chats.
Please, let's do. I see Dunk on you just hopped in here, one of my mods. Thank you, Dunk, and we'll get to it. But thank you, guys. It's been a great chat. You frustrated me.
Petra Olsen, some Swedish love for you there, Greg. So thank you very much.
Non-smoking the Swedish non-smoking initiative.
Absolutely. Kevin Forst, thank you very much for the ATP Geopolitics memberships. And also thank you to, oh, that's my mouse running out of battery. Thank you to Richard Bennett as well. Really appreciate that, my good man. And Michael Vucha, superb supporters of the channel. Johnny Nedregard, some Norwegian love for you there. Hello, Hope Train.
That is the Norwegian island dweller.
And some Johnny Nedregard love for my channel as well. So thank you, Johnny.
Stud.
He is absolutely awesome. All Johnnies generally are, I find. Violet, postcards for peace, with some Australian love for you. Unwavering love and support for Ukraine from Australia.
Violet Rocks from Australia.
And of course, your blonde bombsheller giving 10 Greg Terry memberships there.
Thank you, BB. Amazing. And by the way, she's in Ukraine right now, sir.
Yes, I did know that. And actually still there. She's been there obviously for a little while. Julian Rossiter, India could well take the place of Russia as an arms exporter. Funnily enough, they've actually started to do that. They are
JD Vance just in India.
Yeah, well, so in India have approached loads of people that normally buy stuff from Russia and are offering them arms and also offering them preferential kind of loans from their import-export bank in order to pay for them as well. So they're muscling in on Russia's arms export industry, whilst also at the same time, India have just hit record levels of importing Russian oil, which is really frustrating. But I guess, you know, it's going to go somewhere. They're transactional.
Most populated country on the planet.
Yeah, yeah, and so you would rather that the money for that is, you know, that they will add the value through refining it from crude oil into refined products, and they will get the benefits of that.
Let me pause one thing because I'm watching the chat and it went by and it was Paul Guddeberts from Norway. He just said, so I guess Modi will be dead next, and that's a reference to you know, you see JD Vance, the last basically person to shake hands with the Pope. And I know I saw your Twitter and somebody said, well, can JD Vance please go meet Putin? It's pretty good.
And there's a pro-Russian MAGA American who's been like, I've blocked him now, but he liked that tweet. And he didn't get the fact that the joke there was like, no, he's not really going to do peace. He's going to kill Putin by touching him. And this originally came from Truss. So people were saying JD Vance did a Liz Truss. Liz Truss was our short-running prime minister. She, I think, 49 days. She was the second shortest prime ministerial reign. But she, in order to become prime minister, you have to go and meet the king or queen, and they basically ratify you becoming prime minister. So she went and met the queen, and then the next day the queen died, or like shortly thereafter. And so everyone was like, "Oh, Liz Truss killed the queen," and so people are like saying, "Oh, JD Vance has done a Liz Truss on the Pope," and then all these memes, of course, that have come out concerning that. So thank you very much, Julian Rossiter. Yes, Daryl Thomas, super sticker there.
That's
thank you,
a
Daryl.
slick picture there.
Yeah, I always look at Daryl Thomas's picture there and think hair.
He's got nice
I'm
hair.
jealous
Much
of
more
hair.
than you.
Yeah, man. Like to be honest, most humans have got more hair than me. Leslie Bow, Russia made friends with the Taliban because they lost their drug supply from Syria. Interesting. Russia
very interesting point there. She's a member there on the Hope Train for 14 months. Let's see. Yes.
And Julian Roster, thank you for 20 ATP Geopolitics memberships. Julian, that is incredibly generous. Thank you so much. I need to do more for my members. I don't have enough time in a day, but thank you, Julian. You are an absolute legend. Violet Postcards for Peace again for you. Trump Tower in Moscow. What a farce. No disagreement,
but listen,
I think, from us.
Listen, he'd love it.
Yeah.
And believe me, I wasn't even going to share that today, but I did on the video because, I mean, it's like inside Russia, they're talking it. So
he's so manipulatable.
Are you kidding? You see the painting that Putin sent him?
Yeah.
Come on.
That I saw that painting. I'll see if I can find that actually. And
I have it.
Yeah. So let's just put Putin painting.
Here, I got it.
I've got it.
Yeah.
I've got it. It's
Come
fine.
on. There you go. Pop that up there.
So this is exactly the sort of thing that would appeal to Trump. Of course it is. I mean, look at that.
He's loving it. Very
clever use of the Statue of Liberty there to kind of mimic that arm outstretched. It's just absolutely going to, if you know Trump's looking at that going, oh, not only have I lost some serious weight there, but I'm also looking like the Statue of Liberty and looking like an American hero.
I will tell you this, and somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but at that angle, the flag's upside down. The stars should be to the other side.
Oh dear. Well, yeah. So you would have thought the post,
or flag, which is very important. Interesting. Yeah. I just saw that myself. So
yes. Dunk on you did say so. Thank you, Violet. Dunk on you for you. I'm way late, but working. I can't mod. Sorry, Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate.
And he
Yep.
then throws in some Greg Terry memberships as well,
Yes.
standardized. So it's really
That
kind
man works a
of
lot.
him.
That man works like
Yeah.
crazy.
Um,
But he is.
Yeah,
big
and
supporter of Ukraine.
ONS says most Americans support Ukraine. I hope they do. I mean, the polls that come out consecutively are showing that the support is getting less and less, and that's a reflection of the rhetoric coming from the top. Unfortunately, it is having an effect. So 2 years, 3 years of people like Trump and his administration, and David Sachs and Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson chipping away at the resolve means, unfortunately, that Americans are changing their mind. And that's really sad to see. Thank you, David, for becoming a YouTube member. And Linda S. for you from Australia, gifting 10 Greg Terry.
Thank you, Linda S. from Australia. Always so faithful. And I'm watching the chat right now. Many people saying, yeah, it's upside down. And Johnny Nedregard had the comment, good observation. It means, distress. Hey, one of the most famous Russian painters is the one that did that. And it was sent there. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Good stuff. Well,
yeah, man.
Good observation.
Thank you.
Well, look, I'll leave it there because either my partner's drowned herself in a bath or
I've got to go to my son-in-law's birthday party. Thank you.
You do that. I hope you're less angry now.
Oh, listen, I'm feeling great. We're having some barbecue. He's 27 years old, married to my daughter. Papa Dutch just jumping in here. Linda S. gifting 10 ATP Geopolitics as well. And
wow, thank you, Linda. Super generous.
What was that comment you had before that one?
Just someone saying
Adam Rounds.
Saying I thought I was the only one that was obsessed or something like it's good to hear us saying that we're obsessed. I think was the general thought about that because it was Adam. Someone's replying to Adam Rounds. I thought I was a little crazy until I heard Greg and JP say the word obsessed about Ukraine. And I think, pretty much anyone watching this.
And if exactly. Well, guys, thank you. As always, thank you to our mod teams. They do phenomenal work. And it's just easy. I was literally coming home from the store. I had gotten my son-in-law's birthday present, and JP calls me and goes, dude, let's go live. I said, I'm 1 mile. So fortunately, when you are obsessed, and I really try to mean that in a positive way because it's that important. Yeah, we're ready 24/7. We're ready 24/7. Let's talk about it. We're nonstop keeping up. And with that said, I can tell you guys right now, Poltava is under heavy drone attack right now. Heavy drone attack. So they are rolling tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately. Hopefully the Ukrainians are doing likewise. But of course, it's usually the case that Ukrainians do a much better job of striking actual military targets. BC Skyman, for you, give me
thank you for that $20 super there. Thanks. Linda H, 20 for Sugar Cube or other fundraiser, Linda H. That will go into the Sugar Cube fund, Linda. And by the way, guys, we did a little impromptu fundraiser. It wasn't really a fundraiser. It was just I showed the kids down in, I think it was Zaporizhia, and somebody can correct me, but somewhere. And just all of a sudden people say, well, let's start. What was it, guys? Kids needed something there, and raised $600 that night. And I just went ahead and rounded it up to 1,500, and it's been gone. It was gone the next morning to Zhenya and gone to the kids. And so thank you guys.
Amazing.
Yeah, awesome.
Can I just take this opportunity to shout about the fundraiser that we're doing at ATP Geopolitics for Car for Ukraine, who are
Car for Ukraine rocks, dude.
They are awesome.
Car for Ukraine rocks. Shout out.
Yeah, I've met them in Lviv, and they are just wonderful people doing an incredible job. And there are a whole bunch.
Zaporizhia, yes.
There's a whole bunch of us working together as a campaign to raise 220,000 for a whole bunch of trucks, 16 trucks, 3 minivans, and a minivan and 3 4x4 vans. Or something like that. And we've just moved. I was away for a week, so I was late to the party here, but just really catching up. Moved into 6th place, which is fantastic. Thank you to someone who today donated $2,300. Sorry, euros. Even more, even better. which is absolutely incredible. No name on that, but thank you to whoever that was. Really great donor wall there. So just to shout out to Car for Ukraine, and if you can pop along to atpgeo.com/donate, which is below in the description below, then you can help that campaign as well, and that'll be really gratefully received and appreciated. And Papa Dutch, oh my goodness, you've been joined. Hang on, if I could think of anything to make a difference, I'd pipe up. There has to be something. Thanks, Papa Dutch, on behalf of your big man Greg, who is
thank you, Papa
joined.
Dutch, you legend. Yes, I'm joined by my daughter, and she was walking by over here, and we were just talking about giving the money for the kids. And here, giving the money for the kids, and my daughter walked by. So you think about your kids, and you think about what's happening in Ukraine, and how can you not be obsessed with it, because it's devastating. And so this is my daughter Annie. So Annie's been to Ukraine.
Hi.
Hello, Annie. Welcome to the ATP Geopolitics Greg Terry Experience co-stream.
Okay. My dad wants me to ask you if you're a Christian.
Yeah, not so much. But that's all I have to say on that.
It's okay. Me either right now, but maybe one day again.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to unwrite a lot of books.
Oh, thank you guys. So I always want to show the love. We're real people, man, and real people with real families and real stories, and helping real people in Ukraine. It's not a green screen over there. It's reality, and appreciate all of you. So thanks, JP.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, my man. You look, take care, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for all your support. Please help out with all the campaigns that we're both involved in, and think about those people getting hit at the moment, and spare a thought for them. And hopefully Ukraine can retaliate in a superbly appropriate way.
Yes.
But anyway, until next time,
I would just say this in closing. Tomorrow will be an important day. Let's not minimize it, even though we've kind of projected where we think it will go. Yeah, Poltava's being smashed right now, man. That's terrible. But tomorrow's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah.
It just, they've put a lot on tomorrow. We'll see what unfolds. So we'll be here for you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
I'm getting up early. Keep up with Johnny.
Nice one. Well, I'll be in touch with you. Stay on the line, mate. And Slava Ukraini.
Geroim Slava.